All right. Well, greetings, everyone, and welcome to the January 19th, 2021 edition of Bull Sessions. My name is Mark Robertson, and I'm joined here by Ken Kavula, my dear colleague from about 50 miles to the hinter north of us. How you doing today, Ken?
I'm doing fine. Hey, I think it's about time to get the Santa hats off the bulls.
Well, it's a fading thing, and I think February, we've got a couple bulls that are hanging onto the holiday season and the festive mood. But yeah, those
Well,
those will fade back into the closet shortly.
Natalie and I really love decorating for Christmas, and we love the decorations, but we finally got the last of them down this last Monday, last week Monday. So we got them down, and but the tree itself, the undecorated tree, still stood in the bay window for about 4 days after that. So I understand that sometimes you don't want to depart from the decorations. Okay.
Well, many of the
Uh,
people in the audience already know that I and my family cling to Epiphany as a season, but I think that's also gone by the wayside. So
Dwight says you can exchange them for leprechaun hats, Mark.
those
Okay.
are coming. And in fact, what you guys will see here pretty soon are some groundhog attire.
All
Actually,
right.
some stocking caps and top hats. Anyhow, all right. So let's go ahead and get underway here today. We are going to talk groundhog as usual between now and the beginning of February. I think we have a number of noteworthy groundhogs in the audience today, so maybe get the opportunity to hear from them a little bit. Um, can't let the day go by without just a nod in the direction of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Um, what a force and what a wonderful influence he was, and he certainly is missed, but certainly remembered. And that's what I sort of mean by King Me. I think we all should attempt to follow those words in days ahead. Ken, I don't know, did you have any special things you did for on the educational side when you were in charge of things up there?
Well, the history department always did a lot of stuff, Mark, and those particular classes always brought volunteerism, that whole concept of paying back and everything, brought that to the whole school, and there were a number of projects that were always being done during that time of the year. The problem with Martin Luther King Day for a lot of schools, mine included, was that it sits right on top of exam week a lot of times, or immediately before or immediately after exam week, depending on
Sure.
when the school year begins. And that sometimes forces you to abbreviate whatever you can do to get the whole academic calendar in.
Very cool. All right, so I don't know if Kim's going to be able to join us this afternoon, and Hugh is threatening to join us. He will be back at some point with some financial statement forensics, so we will look forward to that. Um, the predominant theme for today, I just want to spend some time again reinforcing the groundhog contest, where it's been, where it seems to be going. But I want to focus in on one of the things that we've kind of taken away over the years from perennial frontrunner, the Broad Assets Investment Club of St. Louis, and this notion that we have kind of derived from watching and trying to learn from them over the years, this notion of launchpad investing. And that's going to be kind of a kickoff to a theme that we're going to carry into next week's session, where we share just a number of screens. And again, that dovetails nicely with next week's January roundtable, and again, preparations for the next edition of the Groundhog. So we'll look forward to that. Let's go ahead and get underway with the official paperwork here. Most everybody in the room knows the drill, but I have seen a few new names. We welcome the newcomers. No investment recommendation is intended. This is entirely about education and demonstration of a philosophy, a method, a technique. The dates over 80 years now, the modern investment club movement and the type of methods of studying stocks and building and taking care of portfolios as promulgated by Manifest Investing and or the National Association of Investors, also known as Better Investing. The opinions that you hear are our own. We do try to disclose when we have a specific personal interest in one of the companies or holdings described. So we do try to do that. The roundtable is next Tuesday. It's a monthly program we've been doing since 2010, and with rather spectacular returns. In fact, Ken, we just topped 18.6% on the annualized rate of return for the roundtable. So we invite you to hear us share some ideas. We generally have 4 or 5 stock presentations along with analysis using these methods that have 80 years in the making. And if you'd like a reminder on that, you can send an email to nkavula1@comcast.net. Natalie will add you to a list that reminds you anytime we're coming together on that. Ken, did you have something you wanted to add to that?
No, you covered it real nicely, Mark. Let's just keep on moving here.
Okay, if you have any follow-up questions to today's session, or if you'd like copies of the slides, as a reminder, all Manifest Investing subscribers have copies of the slides at their fingertips in our forum. But send me an email, markr@manifestinvesting.com, and we'd be happy to try to tackle that. Here's kind of our standing agenda. We have a bullpen, a queue of topics that we do want to kick around a bit. Today we want to talk about the end of the current Groundhog Challenge, which is a stock picking contest we run at Manifest Investing, which ends on Groundhog Day and begins on Groundhog Day because the next year kicks off where this year leaves off. Ken will talk a little bit about the Forbes Best Small Companies. That is a work in progress where we are adding a bunch of companies to the Manifest database, and should be able to have that done within the next week or so, so at least they are eligible for the screens at Manifest Investing, and perhaps we'll cover some of that a week from today. This notion of Launchpad investing, that's the theme that we want to focus on today a little bit. The Broad Assets Investment Club St. Louis has won 3 of our annual contests in 14 years, and they have a rather spectacular long-term result, and they were in the running this year, as you'll see here in a minute, but they are being outdistanced by a renegade group out of Los Angeles. I think we may have 1 or 2 of them with us here today. Our best current ideas, again, we'll introduce the topic today, but come back with a few of our favorite screens next week, again, in support of the roundtable and the Groundhog screen efforts that go on between now and February 2nd. I see Len Douglas is in the audience. We might get Len to share some commentary on Babylon, one of his favorite books, when we get to that point in the program. And he's not been warned, so Len, you can start warming up in the background with whatever. Any thoughts on any of this, Ken?
No, I'm particularly interested in some of the newer entries to the Groundhog contest. I'd like to get to know some of the people in some of these clubs, and I'm going to be watching some of these. They appeared on the leaderboard a little bit late. I think that probably had to do with splits and things like that. So I do try to watch the portfolios from the top, 20, 25 contest entries and get some good ideas out of them. So I'm getting some real fertile ideas out of some of these people right now. It's very interesting.
Yeah, in fact, I'll show that in just a few minutes. Got a couple contributing factors to some people zooming up the list here at the end of towards the finish line anyhow. All right. Well, here's our moment with Dr. King. And one of the reasons I like to share this slide is a little over 10 years ago, I presented this as a kind of a theme and got a little pushback from people saying it's a real stretch, Mark, to compare the work of Dr. King to George Nicholson, grandfather of the modern investment club movement. And they could be right, I could be wrong, but I really do think a lot of this notion of freedom and the ability to do the things we want and need to do can revolve around, or at least be effectively supported by successful investing. And I don't know if Dr. King had anything to do with investment clubs or not. He seemed to be a pretty bright guy, but he recognized that deficits and differentials aren't always the best things. And one of the ways that you solve some of those deficits and differentials is to teach people, to show them how to learn to do this stuff right. And I think that's where Nicholson's beliefs dovetail very nicely. And I guess I would push back equally strongly on anybody who rejects that notion, because I do believe that informed and thoughtful ownership slash stewardship of companies is a dramatic path. And I'll stop before I tear up here. Your thoughts, Ken?
I agree with you 100%, Mark. I think that capitalism without the ability to differentiate between companies that are doing positive things versus companies that are doing negative things, both for the country and the world, that kind of capitalism that won't make that differentiation is the kind of capitalism that ultimately will lead us to a place where somebody will take over and do for us rather than allow us to do for ourselves. So I'm in your corner on that 100%, Mark.
Well, again, I think it's such a powerful notion, and it can be hard, especially with younger people, to point out that really small differences can make massive differences down the road. We all know about the power of time, and you may feel like you're spinning your wheels as you try to convince perhaps a younger person to engage more fully. But boy, any time that you successfully even get a foothold on that effort, it can be you can look forward to many future smiles for the vast majority. Again, there are no guarantees in the realm of investing, but we do believe with all our heart that finding excellent, better companies and buying them and owning them for as long as it makes sense to do so is a pretty good idea. All right, we're going to get into the current edition of the Groundhog Challenge. The current one is XIV, the 14th Groundhog Challenge. That is in progress and running for another approximately 2 weeks. This is just your invitation. You can participate either as an individual or with a group of friends or partners known as an investment club. And again, we've been doing this 14 years. You're invited to send in. The best way to do it is by emailing markr@manifestinvesting.com. Send in your entries between now and then we just tabulate them up. We basically do a time capsule approach to this, although we do give credit for dividends as part of it. It's a total return contest. The selections that you make on February 2nd, 2021 are what will be scored on February 2nd, 2022. And with no decisions made along the way. So people generally make their selections with that in mind. We haven't seen a whole lot of fence busting over the years. There are a few people that playfully try to select some companies that'll go crazy. We're going to see a little bit of that here with this year's results, but our experience has been that people are pretty well behaved and generally think long term, even though this is a 1 year and then, of course, a year-to-year contest. All right, so let's go ahead and dig in. This is what Ken was talking about, how we love to dig in and see what people are up to. This is the current standings, and I guess I'll issue apologies. We had a couple of things happen. One was an overzealous spam filter where I discovered a couple of long-lost emails. Ken, you might think of it as like the sacred scrolls, the Dead Sea Scrolls. I found these emails. And of course, my first thought when I find them is like, oh no, you get that feeling in your stomach because you just know these are going to end up high up on this list, right? There's no way that these are just average entries because they were tucked away. Of course, the other reason behind a couple of them, including the one at the top, is the keyword is Livongo Health. And Ken, do you want us to describe Livongo Health over the last year for us?
Well, yeah, it's the kind of stock that all of us wish we would have purchased. I think it's up over 200% in the last year. It does a lot with is this the CRISPR technology one, Mark? I know it was purchased by Teladoc, but I'm trying to think of the business model for Livongo.
I really don't know. I need to dig in and understand a little bit better. But what I do know is that somewhere along the road, Octoberish, Livongo shares became Teladoc shares. And then they also threw off, I believe it was $11 or $12 in cash per share. So what you're looking at here on Andrew Spector, Spector's from New York. He's actually the husband of, in fact, if there was a number 21 down here, Ken, that would be another one of those that got kind of lost in the shuffle, the Alchemy Investment Club of New York. Well, Andrew happens to be the husband of one of the leaders of the Alchemy Investment Club. And so we have another Anna and Rod Gombar situation, husband and wife competition going on here. Notice that Andrew is up to almost 3 million. And here are his picks. Teladoc, because of Livongo. The medicines company actually was taken private in that time frame. So that $200,000 basically stayed around $200,000. But he also went for Roku, Twilio, and TAL Education. I mean, these three alone, for most of us in most years, would be headliners. So just a whole lot of fun, and we'll check the math, but I've checked it 5 times now. I think it's pretty sound. I could be making a mistake there, but
well, I can just hear as we speak Barath and Ken Mobley and Marie Frank putting pen to paper and filing an exception to the rule. They were fighting it out for first place for most of the year, especially Barath and Marie Frank.
Yep.
You know, you'd go in and 1 week it would be one of them, and the next week it would be the other one of them. So to suddenly move to third, fourth, and fifth place from the first, second, third that they held originally is certainly something might come to you over the wires, Mark, suggesting that you pay more attention to what comes in.
Well, you can't pay attention to what you don't see, and that was the problem in this case. But
Mark, we're getting questions about the numbers after some of the names. Can you explain those numbers? I think I know what they are.
yeah, those numbers are the positions last week. So these are constantly changing in our database. In fact, some of these are intraday prices today. But the numbers were where these people were last week. The ones with asterisks are ones that were either not in the top 20 or they were also part of the Dead Sea Scrolls. So number 1 there is Andrew, and I think Andrew's in pretty good shape. I'm sure that there will be audits and suggestions coming my way. But number 2 is another one that came out of nowhere. It's the Orange County Model Investment Club out of, near Los Angeles, Orange County, California. And I thought these guys surely had Livongo because they didn't show up on any of our lists either. But lo and behold, they don't have Livongo. So no matter how furiously Ken and Barath and Marie calculate, they have this one in their way too, and this one's pretty safe. It's not complicated at all. Notice that Appian, Stitch Fix, and Square are all above 600,000. You can even throw, I don't even know how you say that. Is it Okta or OKTA? I know it's a David Gardner favorite. These are all doing pretty well. And in fact, even Canada Goose here in the last couple of months has gone back above the purchase price from a year ago. So Orange County, newcomers to the party, they look to be in a pretty commanding position. So there you have it. Now, Ken Mobley, Barath, Marie Frank, they're all a source or a wealth of ideas for companies that are off the radar screen this time of year. We'll be watching again. Marie is a advocate of small companies, emerging type companies. So she's always out there digging, and it's always fascinating to see what people will come up with. You know, Barath is I believe he's employed in a very technical / engineering type capacity, and he's always coming up with high tech emerging companies, some early stage, and just worthy of keeping a a look at, keeping an eye on. I know that Sandy's in the audience, Sandy Castor. Ann Renly's in the audience. Ann is commonly near the top of this list. Just a whole number of repeats. And then there's those Wolves from mid-Michigan, Ken, at number 17. You guys you're in the
And
right.
that's a portfolio done without a whole lot of thought, but with a lot of hope all the time, Mark. So
No, there's some wonderful names on here, and some of these are year in and year out. Bernie Meister from Midland, Michigan, on the list. He's a former Groundhog individual champion. Our dear friend who we lost during 2020, Nick Strategos, will be checking in on the leaderboard for the last time, and he will continue on the all-time leaderboard to infinity and beyond with his achievements over the years. A couple fascinating numbers for all of you guys. That is just an incredible number, 81.7%. Now, Ken and Hugh, well, actually, Hugh is trailing the Wilshire 5000, but Cy Lynch and you, Ken, and I have decent results, between 24 and 30% for the year. Normally, we'd be doing car wheels with that type of number, but we're just back in the pack, Ken.
well, I'm contented. If I can beat the Wilshire by 24%, I'm content, Mark.
Okay, we don't want to get too greedy. And notice this number. This includes some. We have relatively few that have been more unlucky than usual this year. There's just a whole lot of successful selections in all of these portfolios, and the average total return is 46%. That's against a Wilshire of about 21%.
So to drive this home, Mark, if somebody in our audience today wants to enter next year's Groundhog contest, they just send you a list of anywhere from 5 to 15 stocks, identify themselves with a name and an email address, and they're entered. Is that right?
That's correct. And you'll see we'd get a number of groups or investment clubs, and we've had a lot of fun over the years with them also. And we do permit people to make an individual entry, and then also one in concert or conjunction with their investment club partners also. As one case in point, a relative newcomer, the Lunchtime Investment Club out of Indianapolis, I happen to know that Mary Becker is one of the leading champions of that particular investment club. So Mary's in here twice. Good stuff. All right. So we'll talk about broad assets here in a few minutes and Launchpad investing, but just wanted to reinforce what we disclosed to all you guys last week and just get a quick update from Ken on where things stand here and the evolution of this effort.
Well, we didn't discover, but one of our helpers in the Manifest Forum drew our attention to the fact that on December 4th, Forbes published an America's Best Small Companies list again. Now, they hadn't done that for 5 or 6 years. The rules are slightly different for this set of choices. They're capping the companies now at $2 billion in market cap rather than $1 billion. They're still not focusing on sales, but they are changing the capitalization requirements to be considered small. And they put the list out, and what we did was make a dashboard of that list. Mark, is that the next slide?
I think I took it out of here. The actual address to get to that dashboard is right there, though.
Okay, well, I will tell you folks that I've been working on that dashboard. Mark's been adding companies slowly but surely. He put in maybe an extra 18 or 20 companies into this dashboard. And I've been adding the number of shares as of January 7th that they would have had. So when you look at that dashboard and you sort it by value, you will then see exactly which companies have been moving ahead very quickly and which companies have been lagging. This Quantarex, if that's how you say it, with a quality of only 17 and EPS stability of only 3, has moved up 50%. And this chart is as of January 7th, the value based on $100 on January 7th. So at 151, that's a 51 plus percentage gain. Yeah, you don't have to write that date down. If you scroll up just a little bit and look in the description uh, of the dashboard, you'll see that date right there, 1/7/2021 prices. That's what the value is based on from $100 at that point. So I've taken this list and begun to distill it, and I will tell you that I have found 8 companies with quality ratings of 60 or better that I consider to have enough up, straight, and parallel tendencies that they're going to make my short let's study these companies list. I'm not going to give you their names right now, but I will tell you that they're all sitting with fairly reasonable PE values, and they're all doing things that I can immediately understand when I read the description of the company. I shy away from companies where I can't understand the description at all after the first reading, and I shy away from companies where I go to the back of the stock selection guide and find a current PE in the 90s or 100s or even 200s. So I can tell you that the 8 companies I've narrowed this down to so far have decent PE values and have descriptions that are very easy for any investor to get their mind around. I'll give you one of the names because I've already given to you a number of times, and that's MHO, and that's a home builder, a retail home builder, MHO. It's MI Homes, but the company is MHO. And again, I told you qualities of 60 or higher, that's good or excellent, and par values that are in the sweet spot or above. So see if you can find the other 7. Maybe next bull session, I'll add 3 or 4 of my choices to my MHO list, and we'll see where we're going then.
Sounds good. In fact, I jumped off Ken, and let me do that again. I was just looking at what is this Quanterix, I guess is how you would say that. It's one of the life sciences companies. So they're obviously working in that research and diagnostics area, and obviously a red hot area for current days. I'm going to sneak a quick peek at their estimates for next year and beyond. So this is a company without positive earnings yet, but it looks like they are ramping up pretty handsomely. Revenues of 79 million, 96, and 118. So it's not an inordinately explosive growth company. So it could be a really interesting study to. Again, this would be early stage, pre-positive earnings, but could be one to fit on a radar screen and again, look at it a little bit differently.
I know you're looking at Y-Charts data, Mark. Is it easy to find cash flow on the Y-Charts data sheet? I don't see it by a quick look here. Oh, it's under a different tab. Okay.
Yeah, in fact, here, let me just take a real close look. Cash flow is probably not quite positive yet. It's not quite positive yet. So
okay.
It's not even a positive cash flow company yet. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So thanks, Ken. And of course, the battle is on. It's between us and them. And Ken and I don't pull any punches, and we are willing to fight dirty if necessary. Here's our entry that dates back to Halloween. You guys all know the tradition of us selecting our best small companies around Halloween. And Ken, I want to be fearless this year. Normally we're afraid to talk about when we're doing pretty well. We're doing pretty well.
And all right.
we actually have positive gains in 18 out of the 20. That's and then 14 of the 20 are actually beating the Wilshire 5000. So that's a accuracy of 70%. But most importantly, our average return, this is a simple return right now, since Halloween is 40%, the market's gone up 18.2 over that same time frame. So we're cooking with gas. All we can do is hope for the best. We've had one company already taken out. Biotelemetry was taken out, I believe taken private or was acquired by somebody else. But top to bottom, interesting list, doing pretty well. There's Ken's MI Homes for those who didn't catch it on the first time around the park. So
Yeah, Mark, I keep this best small companies list, just a printed version on my coffee table, because when I'm listening to people on TV about talking about small companies, I always like to see if they mention anything on our list. And something happened that hasn't happened in a long time. The company Form Factor, that's the second one on our list there, was mentioned by 3 different people over a 2-day span during the couple of hours that I watched CNBC. So something's going on with Form Factor that's piquing the interest of some of the talking heads on TV. So it might be something you want to take a look at and see if you can figure out what's suddenly causing the interest. Usually, you don't hear any of these names from the people that appear on television. These companies are just too small to hit their radar screens most of the time.
yeah, and in fact, I'll actually assume the position on the soapbox and do a little bit of bragging. I don't know if it's bragging because it's true. Back in that September October timeframe, leading into it, the world of small companies was basically in the toilet. And you can go back and listen to the stuff that we put out on the bull sessions and the roundtables where we talked about the differentials between some of the major indices. And we were doing everything short of standing on our head and screaming from the mountaintop that there was a tremendous amount of opportunity in these small companies. And they've been laggards for 3 years. So I'm just going to say we're not surprised to see the small companies doing better. We just want to do better than the vast majority of the smaller companies. Good stuff.
Boy, and Mark, even when we put this list out in the 1st of November sometime, the list was pretty evenly split between relative return that was green and relative return that was red. In fact, it wasn't pretty evenly split. It was exactly split. 10 had a positive par and 10 had a negative par. And so you can see here we are, November, December, half of January, 2.5 months later, and we've moved to 14 of them out of the 20 now in the green par, with only 6 of them negative par, and only 2 of them actually negative return now. So they are moving in the right direction for us.
So, of course, having said this, somebody at the NSA is going to send this over to a couple of major hedge funds and going to basically kick us to the curb, Ken.
Probably.
Just because we're out there talking about it when we probably shouldn't be. All right. Let's talk a little bit more about the groundhog and lessons that can be learned from watching your friends invest. As you know, as most of you know, with the Groundhog Challenge, we keep track of not just any one year, but we actually have all-time standings. Also, the top 5 participants are listed there at the top of the screen with the soaring bull. The Broad Assets Investment Club out of St. Louis, that's Ruby Lawrence's group of ladies down in under the Gateway Arch. They have just a phenomenal track record, a 27% return over there. I believe they've been in the contest 9 years. They've won it 3 times. They would have been on a path to win it again this year had not that renegade bunch from Los Angeles, Orange County, gotten in there. Who knows? It could still happen, but they've got a pretty good lead. They have beaten the market over those 8 or 9 years of participation by 14% per year. That's percentage points, and that's pretty spectacular. So again, we've seen them win this contest in the group entry several times, and one of the things that we believe we noticed, and we'll cover this in greater detail probably next week, perhaps even editorially, but we noticed that they always seem to have a couple companies in their contest selections every year where we referred to it as Launchpad investing. And what I mean by that is they seem to be finding these companies that seem to be poised to go either from negative earnings to positive earnings or low positive earnings to much higher positive earnings. So that's what we have included here on the right-hand side. I've gone looking for some companies, trying to generate some ideas for stock studies where I want, hopefully good or excellent quality companies. I would love to see them with a projected return on value in upper single digits or even double digits. So that's what you see here. These all kind of qualify. They all fit those characteristics. But then some of the other opinions are shown here. But what I want to focus in on is how the numbers projected for 2021 for these companies are in many cases dramatically higher than the previous year, this year, the current year, 2020. And notice how some of these are just jumping off the page. Again, think what it would look like on a stock selection guide and what would be happening to the blue line as you're studying these companies. You can see that's basically a liftoff. We refer to as Launchpad. We've also nicknamed it escape velocity investing. And even when it's negative, I mean, look at this one here. It can be an interesting situation to take a look at. We found that they had done this in the early years of their participation with, I meant to look it up before I got started. Do you remember the generic pharmaceutical company, Ken, at all, that they'd used?
No, I don't, Mark.
I don't remember. I'll have it for you next week. But in their early years of participation, they had this generic pharma company that had done extremely well compared to the previous years. And they always seem to have that type of company in here. Anything jump off this list that you can?
Nothing that jumps off this list, Mark, but we have a club in our contest that manages to do the same kind of thing on a fairly regular basis. And I'm just going to put a name out there for people to marvel at. Since November 1st, a company called Intellia Therapeutics, NTLA, has gained almost 250%. That's since the start of our contest, November 1st. And the club that put it into their portfolio seems to be able to find one or two of these to add to a pretty standard better investing portfolio and pull themselves up into the top 4 or 5 in our contest year after year after year. This Intellia is just the latest in a long string of choices that I marvel at. I don't know where they're coming from, where they're getting them, and they won't share their sources at the moment. At least they smile and just nod their heads, tell me it's a good one, and that's about it. But you might want to take a look at Intellia Therapeutics, NTLA.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that showed up on a recent screen that I had done also, Ken, so I'll second that motion. But I mean, I really do think that in this year we're going to get the opportunity to look at some, well, look at the one at the bottom of this list. Disney. I don't think that's a stranger to anybody. Disney is coming in with compromised results thanks to the pandemic, but the parks are opening up. Look at these two numbers side by side. Basically, a return to the other side of the chasm. Return to health. Another one that came up on a similar screen earlier today was Boeing. Now, Boeing has certainly had more than their fair share of migraines lately. And if you can believe that these companies can persist and come out the other side, they can present a fairly interesting opportunity. So there's some ideas. Again, this is just an example of something we'll try to cover in greater detail with favorite screens next week and in preparation for the roundtable. If you want more on this notion of escape velocity or Launchpad investing as demonstrated by the broad assets over the years, you can go to that public link at the bottom, articles/2016-02. That was their in celebration of their championship in 2016 February. Go and have a quick look at that. So we'll have some fun with that here over the next couple of weeks too. All right. And with that, I show us at 40 minutes. We've got plenty of time for some questions, but what I thought we might do, if Len is up for it, Len has talked about one of his favorite books. Again, to set the stage for this, we've all just been sharing books that have influenced or inspired us with respect to investing over the last couple of months during these bull sessions. And they don't have to be a how-to manual of investing. They can be simply inspirational. That factfulness comes to mind there at the bottom. But the books from Benjamin Graham, The Intelligent Investor, the trilogy from Peter Lynch, we have featured fairly recently. For newcomers to investing, I would still heartily endorse the Motley Fool and Investment Guide. And is Len in the audience and willing to share his thoughts on this one, Ken?
I don't know if he's willing, but Len, you're self-muted. If you unmute, there we go. You're all set, Len.
Hey, Len.
Okay. Well, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir. You're on the spot.
Okay. This book I remember reading in the early 70s. And as the abstract here says, it was originally written in 1926 and apparently given away free by banks and investment companies for a number of years. It's not so much a investing book, it's a how should you manage your money or your life book. And one of the basic takeaways is of all the money that flows through your hands, you need to take control and set aside 10% of it.
Okay.
For you. Pay yourself 10% first and then live on the other 90%. And once you do, you now have the means to generate wealth.
Yeah, it looks like I don't know how I've escaped this one because it is regarded as a classic and I've not read it. How about you, Ken? Have you read this book?
I have not read it or come across it, Mark. I just marked it down as another one to add to my paperweight here as I read through some of these different books here.
I made it easy for you because in the forum, I put a link to where you can get a free PDF copy. It's
I'll find it and add it to
about 70 pages, and you can buy it from Amazon for $10, or if you want a first edition, I guess you can pay a mint. But the PDF is perfectly fine.
Okay.
I find it easier to read on a 27-inch monitor than in the hard copy, but
absolutely,
that's old eyes, right?
Mark, one of our friends, Geraldine Ruddock, said that Susie Orman just recommended this book as well.
Well, cool. How splendid for her.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Len. All right, just a quick reminder that we do archive all of these sessions, including the roundtables and bull sessions, on YouTube. If you search for Manifest Investing, you'll find a version of this page where you can access. In fact, the 5 sessions shown there are from our conference a few months ago, where we try to pick a topic and share with our audience conference style. And I suspect we'll be doing that again soon. We'll certainly be trying. All right. We'll save this one for another day, but that's Hugh McManus's house in Los Angeles. Just kidding. It's got that's a house that appeared. I don't even remember where it appeared, but they have 5 swimming pools. 5 swimming pools. Hugh said that he was filling in 2 of the swimming pools and gonna allow us to move into as a bunker, Ken. So
you're gonna get him in trouble here, Mark.
I know. One of these days he'll show up and treat me appropriately. All right. So with that, I think we'll go ahead and say thanks, everybody. Shut down and leave the floor open for questions.
Well, Mark, we've kept the questions box. I've kept up with all the questions and answered them, and we don't have any hands in the air, so we can say goodbye and finish up our afternoon then.
All right.
Wait, I have a hand up from Bruce. Bruce, you're muted on your end. If you want to speak to us, you'll have to unmute yourself.
Okay, I have a question on the Groundhog Challenge. Once we pick our stocks, can we change those stocks, and can we change them up to Groundhog Day, or what's the rules?
Well, I can only say that I found that bribes work well. And
Oh, okay.
offers of adult beverages or dinners are certainly welcomed.
Okay.
In case the SEC is listening, I'm kidding. No, you can make adjustments to your portfolio up into the day of the contest. I've actually already received 3 or 4 entries, and we're operating under the premise that if one of those were to take up, Ken already showed you an example that Quanterix has gone up 50 or 60% in the last 10 days. So that may not be, that's an example of a company you probably want to switch out unless you had some special reason for not doing so. So Bruce, bring it, and you can make adjustments between now and then.
Ken Mobley, our friend from Pennsylvania, has his hand in the air. And Ken, go ahead. You're unmuted.
Make sure
Hey, Ken.
we got to be ready to mute him in case he goes crazy.
Okay.
How are you doing, Ken?
Hey, Mark. Hey, Ken. Happy New Year. Just a quick question. Back on slide number 8, the 3 columns that you added under 2021 and 20, was that earnings per share? Was that what you were listing there?
Those are earnings per share, Ken. Yes.
Okay, cool. Hey, thank you for all the good hard work and the vision that you're giving us. Have enjoyed the sessions. Thank you.
Yeah, and there's actually 2 Mobleys on the leaderboard. I think it's your son is in 22nd or 23rd place.
Yes, we are both enjoying it. It's been a lot of fun to see it. As I think Ken Kabula has said, I might have made some good picks, but the bad news is I didn't invest in them.
That's my story all the time, Ken. My wife
Yeah.
is down on my head constantly about that. So
Yeah, me too.
happy
But,
New Year to you.
All right. So with that, I think we could probably go ahead and sign off. And
We're all caught up, Mark.
Everybody. All right. Well, best wishes and better investing, everybody. We'll see you again next week. Get out there and do your groundhog shopping. And if you have any can't miss ideas, please send them to either one of us, starting with me first.
Stay safe out there, folks.
Take
See you
care,
next
buddy.
week. Bye-bye.